Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, I would like to welcome you all to today's discussion. For Turkish-speaking people, participants, please switch to Korean. Today we are going to discuss Turkey-EU economic and commercial relations and the European Green Deal. Economic and trade relations between Turkey and EU are very important. Turkey is a candidate country to join the EU, and while accession negotiations have started in 2005, unfortunately, no new chapters could be opened since 2016. Although accession process it's a standstill, Turkish people's support for EU membership continues. In an opinion poll conducted by IKV and TOBB, we found that 60% of the population favor Turkey's EU membership. Turkey is also custom union partner of the EU since 1996. According to 2020 figures, 41.3% of Turkish exports went to the EU, worth $69 billion. 33.4% of total imports of Turkey came from EU countries, worth $73 billion. As of today, since 1996, the trade deficit between Turkey and EU stands at $305 billion. Export-import coverage ratio vis-à-vis EU was 95.4%. The custom union constitutes the basis of this extensive trade of economic relations. However, it's been 26 years since the inception of the custom union. In the meantime, there have been significant changes in the world trade, EU trade policy, and Turkish industry and trade. EU conducted many free trade cooperation, partnership, and association agreements with third countries and regional groupings. As a custom union partner, Turkey is affected by these trade agreements, of course. However, it cannot be a party or sign similar agreements at the same time as the EU. This creates an asymmetry and imbalance in the custom union. Moreover, transport quotas and transit fees applied by several EU member states hinder transportation of goods from Turkey to the EU and create a non-tariff barriers. The consultation and dispute resolution mechanism should also be revised and updated for custom union to function effectively. The visa requirements continue to present a barrier for effective business and people-to-people contacts between Turkey and EU. Turkey has so far fulfilled 66 of the 72 criteria for visa liberalization. Ladies and gentlemen, the custom union needs to be revised, updated, and also modernized. Currently, it concerns only trade in goods and processed agricultural goods. However, today's trade agreements are far more comprehensive in scope, including all other sectors of the economy as well. The custom union should also be modernized and widened to include not just industrial goods, but also agriculture, services, and public procurement. However, despite an understanding reached between Turkey's Minister of Economy at the time, Nihat Zeybekci, and the European Commissioner responsible for trade, Cecilia Malmström, in 2015. The modernization process could not be started due to political reasons. The European Council initiated a proposal for the positive agenda in Turkey-EU's relations in its October summit last year. This positive agenda included modernization of the custom union. The Council will deliberate on this issue in its March summit to be held on 25th and 26th of March this month. We hope for a positive outcome regarding Turkey-EU relations for this summit. The EU's twin priorities, digital market and Green Deal, also concern Turkey-EU relations extensively. EU has started a green transition with the aim of achieving the goal of climate neutrality by 2050. Nearly all EU policies are being revised in this practice. This means a fundamental change in production methods and product regulations and standards. The envisaged carbon border adjustments mechanisms also shapes EU's trade policy and concerns close trade partners such as Turkey. All industry sectors and also agricultural producers need to be adjusted to the requirements of the Green Deal. We are going to debate such important questions with the esteemed speakers today. Our first speaker is Ms. Neil Icon, is head of the unit at DG Trade and European Commission. Ms. Icon, can you tell us about the European Commission is doing to improve economic and trade relations with Turkey? One of the problems that Turkey experiences in the custom union is that of adjustment of EU's trade agreements. And how can this problem be solved? And how will the European Green Deal impact on the EU's trade partners such as Turkey?
Thank you very much for these introductory words. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, very fine.
Dear fellow panelists and distinguished participants, I'm really glad to join you in this panel from Brussels, from the European Commission, DG Trade. I join you today virtually because of the pandemic. On Monday, the world celebrated the International Women's Day. And just ahead of 8th of March, the Commission published its 2021 report on gender equality in the EU, which also showed the negative impact of the pandemic on women. Ambassador Maya Landrut, however, also said that women are and will be the frontrunners in the fight against climate change. So in these times of a global pandemic, the climate emergency, the crisis of multilateralism and geopolitical tensions, the EU's new trade strategy sets out how trade policy will support our economic recovery and the twin transition, green and digital, and how it works multilaterally and with our trading partners to ensure adherence to universal values and to core labor standards, gender equality, and the fight against climate change and biodiversity loss. So I'm looking forward to discussing these challenges and opportunities with you today. The EU's new trade strategy, adopted on 18 February, is based on 3 keywords. These are sustainability, openness, and assertiveness. On sustainability, well, the EU already uses its modern trade agreements to promote climate-friendly policies. So supporting the green transition and promoting responsible and sustainable value chains is one of the 6 priorities of the new trade policy strategy. As you are also aware, the European Green Deal is the EU's new growth strategy. It has as an overarching objective to transition towards a climate neutral, resource efficient, and competitive economy by 2050, and the ambition to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 55% by 2030. So the Green Deal includes emboldened climate action, as well as strategies on biodiversity, circular economy, sustainable agriculture, and zero pollution. The Green Deal and the new strategy for EU trade policy refer to the Paris Agreement. The EU will propose that the respect of the Paris Agreements be considered as an essential element in future trade and investment agreements. And the link between trade policy and the European Green Deal is the carbon border adjustment mechanism. The Commission is working on a proposal for a CBAM in order to avoid the effectiveness of its own climate policies being undermined by carbon leakage. In doing so, we will ensure the compatibility of the mechanism with the WTO rules and other international commitments. The European Green Deal aims to build a modern, resource-efficient, carbon-neutral, clean, circular, and competitive economy, and not only in Europe. The green transition has impact on our economies, and this in turn will have a strong bearing on trade patterns. On openness, thanks to the EU-Turkey Customs Union, trade between the EU and Turkey has increased more than fourfold over the past 25 years of its existence, along with investments and integration into value chains. Turkey is the sixth largest partner of the EU, trading partner of the EU, and Turkey has benefited immensely from this trade relationship over decades, including through the Customs Union Agreement, the Agricultural Agreement, and the Coal and Steel Agreement. Those benefits of close association to the EU are clear in terms of economic welfare, as well as broader well-being for the Turkish citizens. However, EU businesses are continuously raising concerns over an increasing number of trade barriers imposed by Turkey over the last years, and many of them in breach of Turkey's obligations under the Customs Union. And this trend is unfortunately continuing. So this leads me to the third overarching objective of the trade strategy, which is assertiveness. So following the wave of new agreements in recent years, the Commission will focus its efforts on unlocking the benefits of EU's trade agreements, coupled with assertive enforcement. The Commission in its trade strategy commits to extending the toolbox of measures and strengthening the enforcement of trade and sustainable development commitments on the basis of complaints that are made to the Chief Trade Enforcement Officer. On our side, we look forward to a continued implementation of the Customs Union, and as also stated in the new strategy, provided the conditions are met, to the modernization of EU's trade and economic relationship with Turkey. In closing, let me say that the business community in Turkey is setting the example of joining the EU's path towards a more sustainable, resource-efficient, and greener economy. And this is particularly relevant given that the EU is Turkey's prime export market, and of course, because of our high economic integration, where Turkey is an important partner of a part of European value chains, particularly in automotive, textiles, and machinery. So convergence in climate policy is a requirement, but it is also a natural, unavoidable process as the business converge their plans and practices. Climate neutrality and resource efficiency is in our common interest. It is good for the planet, good for the EU, and good for Turkey. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Ms. Akon, for being, I didn't mention, but we are trying to, we have only 1.5 hours, and time-wise, I'm going to let our speakers to finish their first statements in about 10 minutes maximum, and then we'll try to answer, do this question and answers. Our second speaker is Mr. Fatih Kemal Ebiçlioğlu from TÜSİAD, Turkish Industry and Business Association. He is the leader of TÜSİAD Roundtable for Investment Environment. Mr. Ebiçlioğlu, what are your thoughts on the modernization of Turkey-EU Customs Union? What kind of problems does the Turkish business sector encounter in the Customs Union, and how can they be resolved? And the second question is, we know that TÜSİAD gives importance to adaptation of the European Green Deal. Can you provide some examples of TÜSİAD initiatives on this issue? How can EU cooperate with Turkey in the adaptation process of the Green Deal?
Thank you for kind introduction and your question. Dear distinguished participants and guests, I would like to thank EuroChamber and TOBB for their kind invitation. It is a great pleasure for me to attend this conference. I believe today's dialogues will foster EU-Turkey economic and trade relations in the EU Green Deal era. I would like to start by giving a short introduction about TÜSİAD. TÜSİAD is a voluntary, independent, non-governmental organization dedicated to promoting welfare through private enterprise. TUSIAD activities are aimed at creating a social cohesion based on competitive market economy, sustainable development, and participatory democracy. Dear guests, the dynamic of global competition, supply chain and trade relations are changing, and they are going to beyond traditional way of doing business. The race is not only over price, but also over rule of law, accountability, the values. Unfolding the vulnerability of the global supply chain, current COVID-19 pandemic magnified and accelerated this pursuit. The EU and Turkish companies and the value chains are highly intertwined thanks to alignment achieved through custom union. The EU is Turkey's first trading partner, while Turkey is the EU's 5th largest trading partner, both in export and import. In the context of the twin transition agenda, Turkey's European integration process may become ever more significant asset for Europe to lead transformation toward a new sustainable development model, stronger liberal democracies, and the global rule-based order in the region and around the world. The European Green Deal and the new trade policy reinforced by Green Deal are the manifestation of this new era that will have transformative effects on regulations, finance, and trade. From EU's perspective, the achievement of genuine European Green Deal requires the extension of the EU's legal order, primarily in its region, as well as utilization and enhancement of existing economic partnership. The case of non-EU European economies that are highly integrated to the EU single market, such as Turkey, is of particular importance. It should be integrated to European Green and Digital Agenda from earlier stage. The progress in this direction would widen EU's global political, economic, and social sphere of influence in the post-COVID-19 global order, hence open European strategic autonomy. For European business, the EU-Turkey Custom Union is outmoded and should be adapted to the new generation of economic integration frameworks. Its necessity has been further amplified by the COVID-19 crisis and the new Sustainable Development Agenda. The new Custom Union modernization with a strong focus on Green Deal and digital single market integration will effectively contribute to the evaluation of respective legal frameworks. This will promote sustainability of business strategies and creation of new business and investment opportunities and support intra-EU industrial ecosystem and resilience of the value chains. Turkey and the EU should start working on a concrete framework and utilize the rule-based system of Converge. Re-engagement between Turkey and the EU at the political level at the beginning of the 2001 is the most welcomed. We call for the rapid establishment of a concrete EU-Turkey roadmap in view of necessity step to further integration and to launch the talk on custom union modernization. Dear guests, at the beginning of the last year, we have set up a dedicated task force on Green Deal. Under this task force annual work plan, we have been gathering our members in regular monthly meeting to discuss the latest developments, following the EU agenda closely, building cooperation with related stakeholders, organizing monthly high-level webinars with private sector top executive managers, actively involving the public consultation process of the EU with our position papers contributing to the Turkish strategy plan. We prioritize this issue of carbon border adjustment mechanism, Paris Agreement positioning, circular economy action plan, energy strategies of the EU, digitalization legal framework, updated industrial strategy, including industrial ecosystem and global supply chain structuring. Carbon border adjustment mechanism is one of the most predominant policy tools to accomplish this target. The new climate regime through the lens of economic indicator published by TÜSİAD in 2020 gives us a broader analysis on different scenarios. If the CBAM will be applied to export from Turkey, it is foreseen that we can turn the risk into the opportunities by a concrete action plan which is based on green economic principles. Besides, Turkish industry may suffer from higher production costs, the obstacle in accessing finance, and the decline of competitiveness. We address this risk in our CBAM position paper, which we submit to EU Commission. We underline that the EU and Turkey should accelerate a constructive dialogue. Fair, transparent, and predictable methodological approach is necessary. Revenue generated from CBAM should be used to finance the green investment in exporting countries outside the EU. For TÜSİAD, European Green Deal implies a necessity for a comprehensive transformation that goes beyond CBAM. New climate law, renewed 2030 target, sustainable finance, renewable energy strategies, etc., all these planned initiatives will reshape the long-term sustainable growth goal. COP26 will be a key milestone in global fight against climate change. The declaration of Biden administration of rejoining to Paris Agreement, the climate neutrality commitments show the high necessity of an immediate road strategy and action plan for Turkey. There is a high risk of non-action. The required action for transition shall be strategically planned for the international competitiveness of the industries. We are happy that high-level working group is already set up and actively working under the coordination of Ministry of Trade with the participation of relevant public authorities in order to publish a comprehensive national action plan. It should be noted that there has been significant progress in terms of renewable energy infrastructure, product standards, and compatibility of industries to EU norms with the last decade. Many private sector companies in Turkey are directly following the EU environmental norms and setting ambitious targets. Due to critical importance of the fight against climate change, we as a TÜSİAD also accept the Paris Agreement as a strategic priority. We emphasize that prior to COP26, a commitment to management of the negotiations with the aim of becoming a party to the agreement should be an agenda item of high priority. In addition to all positive progress achieved so far in terms of environmental standard harmonization and energy infrastructure, a concrete roadmap should be established with great determination. This roadmap must be established on the basis of impact analysis grounded in science, which address the issue in detail in all its dimensions, and it must ensure policy consistency and holistic approach. The roadmap should also be prepared with the wide participation, define carbon neutral targets in line with leading and developed economies, and include practical measures. As a country highly exposed to climate-related risk, and in line with the Green Deal agenda, we must invest in a resilient infrastructure while prioritizing decarbonization, renewable electricity generation, and energy efficiency. The other issue we should be addressed seriously is the circular economy. The CC policy framework is needed in this challenging period where resources are so scarce and environmental risks are so high. The success in all these areas is closely related with the developments in the field of digital transformation. Effective digital transformation is achieved through creating innovative business models, products, services, and the customer experiences using new technologies for productivity and growth. We need creative, innovative individuals with analytical, critical, and multidisciplinary thinking skills. Distinguished guests, I would like to end my speech by quoting President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. The European Green Deal is a new growth strategy for a growth that gives back more than it takes away. The European Green Deal set new rules for turning climate changes into opportunities. This will only be possible if the transition includes all stakeholders. In this period, if we want to be a global player, we have to both increase our competitiveness and establish value-based collaboration with the region, strengthen our relation with the EU, align our policies with the Green Deal. We believe with a clear roadmap and consultation, the EU Green Deal holds more opportunities and potential than risk. Thank you for listening.
Thank you, Kemal Bey, for comprehensive speech and meeting the time target. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, our third speaker is Ms. Lucia Santos. She is the Deputy Director General of Business Europe. My question is, Ms. Santos, can you give us some examples regarding Business Europe's work on improving trade and economic relations between Turkey and the EU? In your opinion, how will the European Green Deal influence EU and Turkish business sectors? How should the business community prepare itself from the Green Deal regulations? The floor is yours, Ms. Santos.
Thank you very much. And thanks also to TOBB and to EUROCHAMBRES for the invitation. I think this event combines, and this particular panel combines two topics that are very important for us as European business, because Business Europe is the leading voice of European business. And of course, we also have Turkish members, TUSİAD and TİSK. And therefore, we think there are a lot of opportunities relating to the economic angle of EU-Turkish relationship, and also a lot of potential that can come out of the Green Deal. But maybe let's start by the economic side of our relationship. We are, of course, important trading partners for each other. The latest data that we have in terms of trade is from Eurostat from February this year. And actually, Turkey is one of the very few trading partners of the EU that saw an increase in EU exports last year, as compared to the previous year of 2.3%, while the imports from Turkey were down by 10.3%. So we actually have, as EU, a surplus, or had last year, of 7.3 billion euros. So it is big, our relationship, but as the previous speakers already mentioned, there is opportunity to make this relationship even bigger, even more important, and even more mutually beneficial for Turkey and the EU. And as many have said, we have, of course, an accession process that is ongoing, although for the moment not much is happening concretely. And we have a customs union agreement that dates back from 1995. So, of course, since 1995, a lot of things have happened on trade and investment, and it's very clear that this agreement is outdated. It doesn't meet any longer the criteria that are important for business today. Previous speakers already mentioned critical areas like services in particular, because of course services have taken a very important role in our economies. Services are very much related to manufacturing. When we export goods, we are also exporting a service. So it's very important that we take this into account in our customs union agreement. And of course, we have public procurement that is also very important these days and is also not included in the agreement. And as it was said before, we do not have an effective and functional dispute settlement mechanism. And this has an impact on the relationship. The fact is we have a huge list of topics on both sides. I mean, the Turkish speakers already mentioned the visa. We have also some grievances regarding to additional duties, to customs procedures. So, I mean, the two sides have issues, but it is time to address them. And I think the fact that right now there's no clarity on how to address these issues is also leading to some discomfort in the relationship on both sides. So we need to move forward. We need indeed to try to revise this customs union and put it more in line with the needs of the European business community, both in Turkey and the EU. But before we do that, we need to sort out some political issues that are, of course, having an impact on the relationship, the issues in East Mediterranean and Cyprus concretely. We are positive that the March European Council could indeed be a step forward, but I think it's extremely important that both sides show really a strong commitment to address these issues so we can also try to move forward in the economic relationship. Otherwise, we will maintain a situation like we have today that is not ideal for neither side. So how can we improve in the meantime the relationship? I think a lot of the integration that we have is also because we know that Turkey is in the process, or that's the objective in any case also from the business community side, to align closer and closer to the EU in many regulatory areas. This is extremely important. I mean, we are seeing now and witnessing now what happens when a country decides to leave the European Union sphere, decides to go on his own and adopt his own regulatory procedures and becomes a third country. I'm talking about the UK. We're all seeing what are the consequences of this. Of course, moving out of the customs union, moving out of the single market has increased significantly the costs of doing business between the EU and the UK. And all our companies, both in the EU and UK, are suffering from this. So there is a business case, a strong business case, to continue our customs union, to make it better, to make it more comprehensive, and also a business case for closer regulatory alignment between EU and Turkey. This is even more important, and I'll go through now to the second part that relates to the Green Deal. This is even more important when the EU is definitely taking a number of actions, legislative actions, that have to do with the digital and green transformation. So there's a very ambitious legislative package that will unroll during this year. And this means that if Turkey is not aligned with these changes, there will be more costs for business on both sides. And I think this is one important aspect that we need to take into account. Today, we will focus on the Green Deal. Maybe just to say a few things about what business or European business thinks about the Green Deal. Of course, we are very committed as well as European business to reach climate neutrality by around mid-century. We also see the Green Deal as a very important pillar for the EU economic recovery. But it is important that at the same time we preserve European competitiveness and we avoid carbon leakage to other world regions. So this is very important. We are doing a lot to be ambitious in Europe, but of course we cannot do this alone. We need to also make sure that other regions, other countries around the world, especially the big emitters like the US, China, India, they follow also a similar path. And they also increase the level of ambition. And I think this year was already mentioned that it will be an extremely important year. We have the COP26 coming up, and we expect that countries commit further and become even more ambitious when it comes to national determined contributions. I think this is something we are all expecting from the European side and the business in particular. So for us, it is important that this transformation for a greener economy comes also with checks and balances. We need to ensure that we have the necessary competitive environment in Europe that allows companies to continue to invest and innovate, because of course there will be needed, a lot of investment will be needed, because many of the technologies that will allow us to achieve the objectives of the Green Deal are not there yet. So we will need to invest, we will need to make sure these technologies and these new products and services become a reality. So we need a lot of investment. And we need, in the meantime, some flanking measures. We need to ensure that we will not, as I mentioned before, have a situation of carbon leakage, that we will be, a lot of investments will be leaving Europe to other regions around the world because they have lower level of constraints in terms of climate change and environment. So we need to make sure that by doing this, in this process, we are not hampering the competitiveness of European industry, that we are not harming jobs and overall welfare in Europe. And of course, if we are serious also about making sure that we are ambitious globally, this needs to be a joint effort, not just Europe doing it. So I think that this is the big picture. Now, because we need others to do something, of course, we are using a lot of mechanisms to convince our trading partners to do more. One of the mechanisms is, of course, climate diplomacy. We are also using our trade agreements. I mean, more and more our trade agreements are used as a tool to ensure that our partners take more commitments in the area of sustainability, including on climate change. But we also are looking at other mechanisms, including the carbon border adjustment mechanism that was already mentioned. This for us is a flanking measure. This for us, as I said, it is an important measure to prevent carbon leakage in Europe, but it needs to come with certain conditions. For the moment, we know that it's still not clear exactly what will be the scope, and now the carbon border adjustment mechanism will be designed and implemented. For European business, there are two key criteria. On one end, of course, it needs to be fully compatible with WTO. The second is, of course, that for us it is important that we maintain well-functioning flanking measures that prevent carbon leakage, and this for us means keeping free allocations within the current emissions trading system. But another aspect that is important as well for us is that from an early stage, we engage very closely with our trading partners, namely with Turkey, to make sure that we explain to them this measure and they understand also how they will be impacted or can be impacted. So maybe just a few points on how the Green Deal could impact EU-Turkey relations from our perspective. Well, first, I think, as I mentioned before, Turkish companies and companies overall exporting to Europe will be facing additional legal initiatives, additional constraints, ranging from energy transition to circular economy, as well as European business. So we all will be facing this new legal framework. The second, I would say that is important. We already mentioned the EU-Turkey Customs Union, a potential revision of the Customs Union. It's clear that one of the areas that will be fundamental also to ensure that this agreement goes through the European Parliament and goes through member states in Europe is that we have a very strong sustainability chapter that includes, of course, provisions on climate change and biodiversity, and of course, a strong and binding commitment to respect the Paris Climate Agreement. This is going to be essential, and we think this is one of the aspects that will be important to keep in the customs union, in the revision of the customs union. And then, of course, you will be potentially impacted by the CBAM, but this we need to see concretely what will mean once we know more about the design. But there are also other legislative measures in the pipeline that could potentially impact Turkey as well as other trading partners, including mandatory due diligence in supply chains. Of course, this is something that we are expecting to come up very soon, and initiatives around deforestation. So these are also legal initiatives that are in the pipeline and could potentially impact trading partners. So to sum it up, I think all this means that EU and Turkey need to stay very closely aligned from an economic point of view, but also from a regulatory point of view, because otherwise, even if we make more steps to become closer from an economic point of view, if we don't align regulations, the barriers for business will be increasing and the costs for doing trade and investment will be increasing. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Santos. But I would like to mention just a few things in here. I am also representing a very heavily industrial zone in Turkey, Kocaeli, and we have a lot of chemical production in here. I was told that since environmental chapter has been opened with EU, regulations that Turkish manufacturers are facing and actually matching or have been completed are higher than some of the member countries. I don't want to give the names, but these things are told to us by multinational companies who are producing in Turkey as well as in Europe. So opening up chapters is very important for Turkey to really match the regulations with the European Union. Thank you. Now our fourth speaker is Zeynep Bodur Okyay. She is a member of the Economic Board of Foreign Economic Relations Council, DEIC, and chair of Turkey-European Business Council, also deputy chairperson of IKV. My question is, Ms. Bodur Okyay, how do you evaluate the custom union modernization process? What is the approach of DEIC to this issue? In your opinion, how will the Green Deal impact on trade and economic relations between Turkey and the EU?
Thank you, Chairman. I'm very glad to be here today with distinguished guests. I was told that the speakers will talk in their own language, so I prepared some issues in Turkish. So I would like to continue in Turkish, if you don't mind, and but I can answer questions later in Turkish. So yes. Evet, Gümrük Birliği'nden konuştuğumuz zaman
when we talk about the customs union, sure, in 1999, 20 years ago, in European Union Helsinki summit, the candidate status of Turkey was adopted, and Turkey-EU relations have gained a new level and dimension. So IKB, that we are both working in, has great contributions. And since that day, Turkey and EU relations have gone through many challenging processes, but got stronger. Customs union for Turkey indeed is just one of the stages in the accession of Turkey to EU, but it's not the final stage. That's what we think as a business world too, because we have to remember that Turkey is the EU is the largest trade partner of Turkey, but of course the main purpose of Turkey is to become a full member to the EU. Enlargement or modernization of the customs union indeed will have constructive and beneficial opportunity both for Turkey and EU to further the constructive dialogues. Indeed, recently the negotiations came to a halt, and the economic and trade relations of both parties should be furthered. And I believe customs union is one of the fundamental steps in that case. The customs union will contribute to new economic activities, and also in order for it to be widened to a more inclusive framework, I think both for Turkey and the EU, customs union poses an important roadmap, and it's a challenging one, I have to say. I believe it's a necessity now, the modernization of the customs union. So the trade barriers, I think we have to mutually remove these trade barriers with an updated customs union, and also in legislation, regulations, and standardizations, the parties should come to terms. And because as long as it gets more complicated, therefore I think an impartial mechanism to be offered is necessary. EU's activities for Turkey and for Turkey's relation to EU, this is critical. While of course the EU Green Deal was mentioned before me by other speakers, while I agree and I echo these comments, in that respect, the mechanisms to be implemented should be a part of the customs union agreement and should cater to today's and future's realities. So we have to build a ready infrastructure for that. As you have mentioned, as Fatih Bey has mentioned, and as other speakers have mentioned, EU Green Deal has a transformatory power, and I don't think the customs union should be thought separately from that. In 2014, there was a World Bank report about modernizing the customs union, and there are other resources similar to that. So they all say the agriculture and services sector should be taken into the scope of the customs union, which will offer both advantages to both parties. And as DAIC, we prepared a report elaborating on these advantages, and we explained this to different organizations in Brussels. Now, by updating it, we are adding it to the Green Deal scope, and I think the changes to be made have some certain impacts on the sectors, and we indeed elaborate and arrange this on the report, and we talk about the positive impact of the customs union for Turkey and for the EU. So we wish to explain it very clearly. So under the scope of the EU Green Deal and similar mechanisms, I think there are important items to be added to the New Deal, and in the global and the regional market are it's important to support to protect the competitiveness. So when customs union is being modernized under the framework of the EU Green Deal, the advantages that the EU while companies are indeed benefiting from, I think the Turkish companies should benefit from too. So customs union, as I've already mentioned, it's very important for the business world, but I'd like to now talk about some problems. The most important problem is, although the Turkey is a member to customs union, it doesn't have the authorities and the advantages that the trade partners of the EU has. You have mentioned that, for instance, there are quotas on the road transport. It's an important problem for us. And today, of course, the global economy now is more service weighted. And in that respect, the customs union covering only the goods trade is a restriction by itself. So this needs to change. And you know it because IKB indeed is taking it one of the top items on its agenda. The first topic, for instance, let's give Brexit process as an example. The trade agreement with the UK, of course, we couldn't sign it simultaneously. We were told that this couldn't be the case. And of course, Turkey gave us billions of trade surplus with the UK. And in its trade with the UK, there was a high probability that we would be facing serious taxation, especially automotive and white goods companies in Turkey would seriously be negatively affected by this. So we went through this risk every day. And of course, halting in our trade, of course, would cause a serious shake in the Turkish business world. As you know, we have many multinational companies operating in Turkey. They would have negatively affected by that. Although this didn't come to reality, although we signed another agreement with the UK parallel to that agreement, Brexit agreement, this seriously disturbed the business world, and the obligations that Turkey had indeed was deeply felt by the Turkish companies and the other companies in Turkey. In the updated customs union, I think we have to increase the common interest and benefit, and the Turkish business world should be facing the similar risks. Again, we have to make effort together. In terms of the quotas, restricting the free movement of the goods is another issue. And since 1996, as you all know, our trade volume has quadrupled. But in spite of that, the quotas couldn't be increased similarly. So there are mechanisms, they have turned into mechanisms that restrict the movement of goods. And while many NGOs and other organizations are bringing this up on the agenda, of course, it causes increase in the costs and restrict the competitiveness of our companies. And frankly to say, we think that it's not fair trade. So in the customs union to be updated, we think that more comprehensive and inclusive mechanisms should be designed and created. And services industry, it's a topic by itself, because since 1996, the economy has gone through serious change, and its services industry in the total economy has increased, the digitalization got increased, and this growth, of course, was more evident in the developed countries. So in this growth in the European Union, and we have very close relations with the European Union as Turkey, but I think they need to pave the way for that. For Turkey, it's also a necessity for the organizations that are cooperating. I think digital or non-digital services, all of them should be exported to EU market, and I think concrete steps can be taken to cover the economy gap in that deficit. I think it's a great opportunity for the EU too. An EU deal, Green Deal, I think it should be evaluated under the global sustainable development efforts. Maybe it's seen as von der Leyen's project, but it dates back to 1987, and there was the Brundtland, the president of World Health Organization back then, while prepared the report. And we can only see how it was shaped then when we read the report. And in that report, without compromising to meet the next generation's need, but also today's development policies were also mentioned. And later in 1990s Rio summits, and in 2015 an arm of Paris Agreement. And for 2030, as we all follow very closely, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals is the most important object.
So in this regard, the Green Agreement is a very important framework fulfilling this policy, and Turkey needs to closely follow it up. And of course, I mean, as the business world, we would appreciate the efforts taken by the Turkish business community to this direction. I am here on behalf of IKF and DEIC at the same time. So on behalf of DEIC, I would say, as the European Business Council coordinator, we work with 40 countries. You know, I am the coordinator. In December 2019, since European Access, European Green Agreement has been announced, we've been working greatly on this matter. You know, businessmen, the lawyers, NGOs, and public sector students. I mean, we have reached out to many. So these are all about information giving, but at the same time we started doing awareness raising projects, and effect or impact analysis are included within our projects. The main reason is to, you know, take our role and responsibilities, calculate them first and foremost, and then you know, I mean, for Turkey and European Union countries, finding a balance, you know, to carry this, I mean, cooperation further. So that's what we are working on. That's what we are discussing. And we also established a European Union working group. And that's, I mean, this is also on top of their agenda of the working group I'm talking about. As was mentioned by all the speakers, I think the Green Agreement would be a great transformative force for all of us, you know, the business world, as well as, you know, the government. It has its risks as well, but as we want the industry to, I mean, shift to a carbon neutral economy, emission, you know, trade system, circular economy, biodiversity, smart cities, green agriculture, you know, zero pollution, are many projects we are conducting in Turkey. And some of these projects have already been initiated. For some sectors, you know, we talk to some of the sectors and they don't even want to, it's a bitter process for them, let me put it that way. And Mrs. Santos also talked about it. It's not an easy job. But even if it is, you know, I mean, pushing us further would increase our competitiveness. You know, business world, business community of Turkey was very much frightened by the customs union back then. But now we became even more competitive. I believe the same will apply for the Green Deal. And sorry, Zeynep, but you need to wrap up. Of course, sir. So Turkey has labor, Turkey has industrial experience, you know, agility. So I believe it will be adopting quickly. And in the supply chain process, we've always been a good and reliable partner to the European Union and business communities of both parts. By the way, I mean, B20, I mean, there's also the International Advocacy Councils, and I've been a member to that, and I see that the G20 agenda also covers this matter. What I'm to say is that, I mean, as the member states, as well as the business community, by the way, business community has a great responsibility on its shoulders. I mean, is to make sure that Turkey and the other candidate countries are imposed the rules in the same way, and we need to be determined, you know. It's, I mean, it can, For instance, European Union, if they are working with their own countries, they need to get some opinion from the candidate countries as well, involve us as the stakeholders. I believe it would be very important. Thank you. Thanks a lot for your time. Zeynep, thanks a lot for your presentation. Switching to English.
Miss Anita Fürstenberg, Lucius. She's Director for Central and Southeastern Europe at the European Investment Bank, EIB. Ms. Fürstenberg, Turkey is EU's sixth trade partner, sometimes we call it fifth, while the EU is Turkey's first trade partner. The Green Deal will surely affect the EU trade policy and relations with Turkey. Turkish firms and producers will have to adjust and adapt themselves accordingly. How will this transition and adaptation will be financed? Can you give us some examples regarding the opportunities presented by the European Investment Bank? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, esteemed panelists, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can see the presentation that I just put online. Is this fine?
It's not on yet.
No?
We are just seeing you. You have to...
Okay. Because I did share screen.
Okay. Oh, now it's me.
Okay, let me try again. I tried to share screen. Okay, your entire screen. Just doesn't seem to work.
Is it? Could you help?
You see it now?
No, sorry.
No.
Miss Anita, we are going to share it.
Okay, well, then I maybe do it without the presentation. Sorry about that.
If you want, we can share and then proceed further.
Yeah. Okay, but I can do it without the presentation. I'll just read it, and then maybe afterwards you can disseminate. Let me just thank you again, and let me start by introducing the European Investment Bank. We are the largest multilateral lender in the world. We are owned by the 27 EU member states, and we are active in 160 countries.
Now your presentation, I think.
Okay, can you go to the next screen then? Okay, so this is basically the introduction. We have been financing since 1958 over 14,000 projects in over 160 countries. And we are active in Turkey for decades now, so since the 1960s. We have 51 offices around the world, one in Istanbul, and a little dependance in Ankara. Next slide, please. Our subsidiary, the EIF, is our subsidiary in charge of SME finance, which has been extremely relevant in Turkey and also in Europe in the view of the current COVID crisis. And they have been active for 26 years. Next slide, please. So in 2020, we had a financing volume of 66.1 billion euros, of which 12.9 billion of the European Investment Fund. And we supported 270 billion. So of these monies outside of the EU, 10 billion, you see that we have a main focus obviously on within the EU. 10 billion we financed outside of the EU. And the enlargement and EFTA countries, of which Turkey is a part, obtained 1.26 billion last year. Next slide, please. Our priorities are 4 pillars: innovation, environment, infrastructure, and SMEs. They usually get a similar share. Obviously, 2020 was particularly important for the SME sector because that was the sector that needed most support in the COVID crisis. Next slide, please. Because this is now actually the topic of your question, the Green Deal. 2020 was a very important year for the European Investment Bank because the strategic decision was taken to become the EU's climate bank. That was also at the same time when the EU communicated on its Green Deal. And for the EIB, this was a significant, a massive change to our institution. We set ourselves a target of supporting investment in climate action and environmental sustainability of 1 trillion euros from 2021 to 2030. We committed to increase the share of our financing to climate action and environmental sustainability to reach 50% 2025 and beyond. And we decided, as of this year already, to have all of our activities Paris aligned. And Paris aligned means that basically all of our projects have to not harm the goal of keeping the warming to 2 degrees of the planet. Now, obviously, this has a massive change to the way we do business because we need to basically analyze all of the projects that we are doing on whether they are harming the climate. We can still do transport projects and innovation projects, so not everything has to be a climate project, but nothing that we can do must harm the climate change goals. Now, it was particularly significant for our energy. We had a dedicated energy lending policy also decided last year, and we basically opted out of fossil fuel projects. So as of this year, we will not support fossil fuel projects anymore. Now, our goals are outlined in the Climate Bank roadmap, and I put a link there, and I wanted to take the time in the following slides to explain to you a bit the impact this has on the lending business. Next slides, please. Because obviously inside the EU, we have a wide spectrum of financial products and advisory service. Now, outside of the EU, we are working with the Neighborhood Development and International Cooperation Investment called NDG instrument that is provided by the European Commission. Now, this instrument is not yet finally negotiated, so these things are still ongoing, but what we know is the strategic outline of where we will be in our non-EU lending. And I think there are some important elements there which are also very important for our Turkish business. We have a policy-first approach, so we will seek a very close alignment and complementarity with the European Commission, the European Action Service, and the EU member states in what we do outside of EU, and we have to deliver on the Paris Agreement and UN Sustainability Development Goals. So obviously, how much we will do in Turkey will depend on the overall relationship between the EU and Turkey, and on the transformation of the Turkish economy to a green economy aligned with the European Union. We will deliver on the transition to a low-carbon, climate-resilient and environmentally sustainable economy. We want to strengthen EU competitiveness, inclusive growth and cohesion. It was already mentioned before by some of the speakers. And we will serve as an investment arm for the external action. Next slide, please. So what we will deliver on is technical, financial, and project development expertise. I think this will be extremely relevant, in particular, to help the companies and the clients to understand better what the EU taxonomy and the Paris alignment really means. We will align our activities with EU values and policies. We will leverage and scale up scarce resources to enhance impact. These are also discussions under NDG, how to blend better and develop financial instruments so that we can make more of the grant funds that are available, and to use partnership also with other IFIs to complement our capacities. Next slide, please. I just wanted to quickly mention that we are in discussion also with the other multilateral development banks. I mean, we were the first ones to commit to Paris alignment, but clearly there is a cooperation process ongoing with the other IFIs and with the banking sector at large. So my message to this is, and that's why I wanted to show you this picture, that we have a holistic approach, that Paris alignment does not only go to business, it also goes to how you act as the institution itself, and this will probably and hopefully be replicated by our partners. The short message is, we believe there is no really an opting out if you are partnering with the European Union on the development of going green. Eventually it'll trickle down to all of the partners that are doing business and that obtain our funding and I think a couple of the previous speakers have already outlined this. So the earlier the Turkish businesses adapt, the better. Next slide, please. Now, maybe a couple of words on what we really think are green investments. Green investments are climate change adaptation, renewable energy, research, development, innovation in the green space, investments in energy efficiency, lower carbon transportation, and environmental sustainability financing. So that is basically the money is going to the smaller companies. These are the figures that we did in the last year. And the next slide will show you the upwards trend in the composition of this financing. And as I said before, we are aiming to go from now slightly over 30% to 50% of our financing in 2025. So this is really where our ambition and our advisory and our business proposals are going to be in the climate space. Next slide, please. Yes, there was a question on Turkey. Yes, also in Turkey. Also, I mean, we will do 50% of all of our activities in the climate space. So this is overall, but there is not one country where we do less and another country where we do more. We aim to really be mainstreaming our climate agenda, and through the Paris alignment, we will be obviously checking on the projects that are not basically energy efficiency or renewable energy, on whether they are contributing to the solution of the problem or whether they are a cause of the problem. And we will be not doing projects that are actually hindering the goal of maintaining the global warming at 2 degrees. Now, just to conclude, I know that we are short on time. I think it would be interesting to show you a couple of slides on how the populations perceive our climate ambition and the topic of greening as such, because if the general populations are not joining us in this path, then it is not sustainable either. So maybe this next slide, please. There was a question put to selected populations in America, China, and the European Union. Obviously, currently people are very much obsessed with catching COVID-19. So currently what is at people's heart is the disease more than climate change. And actually currently people are not using public transport because of the COVID. But when you look at the longer term questions that we asked for the population, next slide, please. When you look at the post-COVID attitudes of European and other citizens, you will see that the majority of the European citizens say that COVID-19 economic recovery measures must tackle the climate crisis. So there is ample support for the measures that the European Commission and are deploying. And actually 70% of the respondents were in favor of stricter measures to fight climate change. So I just wanted to leave you with this, because we often get messages on saying this will change again, but I think from what we can see currently, there is strong support for the green agenda. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Furstenberg. Now we come to our last speaker. Last speaker is Mr. Başaran Bayrak. He is the Deputy Chairperson of Turkish Exporters Assembly. Mr. Bayrak, can you tell us about the approach of Turkish exporters to the modernization of Turkey-EU custom union? What does TIM do in order to prepare Turkish exporters to the effects of European Green Deal? And how will the Green Deal impact on exports to the EU? Do you see it's a challenge or opportunity? Thank you,
moderator. I'd like to say all participants hello on behalf of Turkish Exporter Assembly. If you allow me now, I will continue by Turkish speak, if you don't mind. Değerli katılımcılar.
Dear participants, I'd like to salute you from the honor roof organization of over 100,000 exporters, Turkish Exporters Assembly, on my own behalf and on behalf of my organization. First of all, under the scope of this EU-Turkey high-level business dialogue on Green Deal event, the EU and Turkey economic relations, trade relations, and common challenges in the view of EU Green Deal, this panel. I'm very happy to be a part of this. Well, dear participants, according to risk reports of various organizations, among the developing risks, although the epidemics and pandemics have topped the list, the climate change is the second one on this list. The climate change is not the problem of the next generations, but have become a direct problem of this generation of today. So post-pandemic setting, I believe that the climate change efforts will be accelerated. The environmental ministers of the EU states in net greenhouse gas emissions have the target of at least reducing 50% by 2030 compared to 90s. And on the other hand, the US, when the new president took the office, in one of the first signed decrees, they mentioned that they returned back to the Paris Agreement and to World Health Organization. So, and also when we look at the EU, the president has mentioned that the EU is waiting for the US to side with them. And also, again, there are various targets being focused on: Japan 2050, China by 2060, targets to neutralize the carbon. The steps taken, of course, affect the global trade and also the trade in our country. As a Turkish Exporters Assembly, we are following all these developments very closely. In this respect, the EU Green Deal, although it's a priority and its importance is getting increased every day, I believe it, in order for it to lead our efforts in our assembly, we for the first time created a climate change group and or committee. So this committee also attended the consultation meetings on Green Deal. In September, enlarged presence group meeting, 64 sector presidents were informed for climate change and Green Deal. Again, in the same month, Horizon 2020 program, Green Deal online informative meeting was performed. So in that respect, Green Deal and the subtitles of the Green Deal, our exporters were informed. In October and November, on European Green Deal, in order to answer the questions of all the industries, energy intense, resource intense, and raising awareness meetings were organized. Both University Climate Change and Policies Implementation Research Center cooperated with us, and we offered between 15th October and 22nd of December we offered training on Green Deal. TIM and from 13 Exporters Association Secretary General, various personnel got a 30-hour of training, while our teams are closely following the developments and they continue to inform the companies regarding the Green Deal and climate change. Distinguished participants, in the coming years, adaptation to Green Deal will increase the competitiveness of our companies exporting to to the EU. The pandemic have shown that our country, is a reliable supplier with its clean energy. So I think Green Deal is not a crisis and risk to export, but it's an opportunity. So Green Deal, I believe, will also give an opportunity to use the resources effectively in various industries. At that point, rather than focusing on the challenges that the deal will be bringing, I think it's more meaningful to evaluate the opportunities and make use of them. The European Union, any development in the European Union, we export over 50%, we have to adapt ourselves to. So it won't be possible to, of course, keep ourselves distant from that in the long term. And I believe the others will also undertake the same obligations. And if the exporters cannot fulfill the obligations, then they have to offer their products for a cheaper price, or because of the cost at the customs, they will lose the advantage of price and proximity. So now the producing and exporter companies, while they have to be knowledgeable about every stage of their products for production. So from cradle to the grave, all the responsibility of their products are on the shoulders of the exporters. So the exporting companies should be collecting all the data and should measure their environmental footprint. On the other hand, to what extent the produced product is releasing carbon dioxide to the atmosphere should be very well recorded. A carbon order adjustment mechanism will be applicable to heavy industries first and will cover all the products in time. In the border of the European Union, because of the carbon adjustment mechanism, Turkey might face 1.8 billion euros of cost. So the companies should not only focus on their products, but also should align their production to EU standards immediately. Both the Ministry of Trade and the Parliament is informing the exporters, and as a result of that, I believe the exporters now got an awareness about the Green Deal, and many companies are working seriously on that. I believe that the Turkish companies in the future will get aligned more with the Green Deal and will have sounder steps towards the alignment. Dear participants, distinguished presidents, ending my remarks, I wish for the success of this session, and I would like to salute with love and respect on behalf of my organization and myself. Başaran Bey, thank you very much for effective use of time. We have run out of time indeed.
We have a guest speaker, maybe just for a couple of minutes. Georgi Stov, co-chairman of Global Europe Committee of EUROCHAMBRES and member of the board of directors of BCCI. We would like to let him deliver his speech for a very short while because our time is almost up. And I do have 4 more questions for our speakers, actually 5 questions. So can we let Mr. Stov in? Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you very much, Chair, for the floor, and I would like to thank you very much for this remarkable webinar that we are handling together today. And my intervention is very short, and I would like to give only the full expression of my support to the speech of my esteemed colleague from Business Europe, Mrs. Santos, and at the same time to focus on a very concrete, good example for the EU-Turkey collaboration, which is a new prospective niche, along with all the others, of course, which we have among EU and Turkey. But this one concerning the information technologies and computer technologies development is of critical importance, also linked to the European Green Deal, linked to our mutual collaboration. And what I sent to our esteemed participants is a kind of PDF presentation about example of Austrian technology, which has been very remarkable, combining the personal computers and server together in a very powerful IT units that are now produced already in Turkey. So this is a very quick connection. And I believe that this is a unique opportunity for European and Turkish company, not only to collaborate together, but to get a new market niches, which have been before only, for example, taken by the Chinese companies or American companies. And now it's a good chance that should not be missed. Thank you. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Stov. Thank you. I have now 5 questions. I'm going to address them to each speakers. First one is for Ms. Aykorn. Elaborate further on in what way Turkey violates the customs agreement, because indeed the opposite perception is present in Turkey.
Well,
is violating the custom union agreement.
Okay, yes, indeed. In reply to this question, I mean, we have witnessed in recent years a pronounced divergence of Turkish trade policy from the EU. Luisa Santos from Business Europe, she mentioned a few trade barriers with which EU business is confronted with. One example is that of additional duties levied by Turkey. Another is also an irritant has been that of localization of pharmaceutical production, which hampers competition, limits access to pharmaceutical products for wide population in Turkey. We acknowledge also Turkey's concerns as raised by Derek too. These concerns, however, relate to the existing customs union, which is stated and has its limitations. But as the agreement stands, it requires that Turkey abides by these rules. And this is important for both the EU and Turkey. In wrapping, concerning the focus of today's panel, I think we should also appreciate very much the resolve of Turkish companies to see the opportunities in Green Deal. And finally, climate neutrality and resource efficiencies is in our common interest. It's good for the planet, good for the EU, and good for Turkey. So thank you for that. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. The second question is to Mr. Ebiçlioğlu'na. Identify what exactly Turkey needs from the EU in terms of support to move towards a greener economy.
I think I'm going to be highlight a couple of things. We have a custom union agreement with the EU. So this our largest business partner we are talking about. So any regulation coming from the EU side is going to affect Turkish economy. Most of small size and mid-size companies, enterprises should comply with those regulations. This needs to funding. This funding is the crucial for this kind of transition period. So EU already decided to create the mechanism, carbon border adjustment mechanism, and at the end of the day, they are going to generate revenue for this mechanism, and they are going to use this mechanism for this revenue for their transformation. But what we are expecting from EU for this transformation period to be fair and transparent for the process, and use this kind of funds for non-EU member countries, especially I'm referring to Turkey, because we are we have a special custom union agreement with EU, and most of companies in Turkey already try to comply with the EU regulations in order to export product from Turkey. So a major issues, I think, the funding of this transformation, to get support from the EU for that.
Thank you, Fatih Bey. Third question is to Ms. Okyay. How can the EU support and collaborate with Turkey in Green Deal process? Zeynep Hanım, floor is yours.
I'm on mute, so thank you. First of all, we would like to see how the Green Deal will be, will work in EU. I believe that, as I told also before during my speech, that Turkey wants to have a fair, let's say, we don't need an easiness, but we need to have a fair discussion and share of our thoughts, and would like to be much more involved in the process, as well as I believe that if there is a project like European Green Deal, if there is a word written European at the beginning of the project, then I believe that it has to be overarching, which will cover the whole, obviously European countries, but also countries like Turkey. Therefore, I mean, my opinion is we need to have a special position like Turkey, where we can really give our thoughts as a business community regarding all the issues, because Turkey has a lot of foreign investments, also direct investments in Turkey, and they will be affected. So I think that point of view will be very valuable for us. That's what I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Zeynep Hanım. Our fourth question is to Ms. Anita Furstenberg. How an SME in Turkey seek finance from EIB? How does it work in practical sense? Anita, the floor is yours.
Yes. I told you that we are within two mandates. So we basically our lending to Turkey is aligned with the budget periods of the European Union. So in the last period, there were credit lines given to the main Turkish banks for SMEs, for specialized SME portfolios. And the banks and the SMEs could approach the banks to be getting the privileged funding that we obtain to the banks to be passed on to them. Now we are at the end of the current period, so these lines are mainly depleted already. We are about to negotiate with the European Commission on the NDG instrument, as I mentioned before, where there will be a private sector window. And once we have concluded the negotiations, our hope would be that we would have lines for SMEs opening up again with the commercial banks, with hopefully a specialization on also climate-based lending also to SMEs to support the projects in energy efficiency or in climate adaptation, for example. But the process for the SME will not change, but currently we are waiting for the new funds to arrive to be able to disseminate them into the system.
Thank you, Anita. And our last question is actually to all of us. Mr. Durubda is asking, could you please mention biggest low carbon transport projects, particularly in Turkey? I myself am not aware, I mean, in particular in transport industry. So if any of the panelists know any information, could you please answer? There are some companies working on liquid hydrogen. I think that could be one of the answers. to this question for public transportation and etc., but it's a long way to go. So I don't know if this answer is good enough. I would like to thank all of our panelists for such a timely webinar. On behalf of IKB and TOBB, I appreciate your speeches and time. I think we should end now because there's another panel right after us. Thank you very much to all of you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, President. Thank you.
Likewise. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank